I have a coffee mug that Tiffany Chrisman, who was my salesperson when I was in Southern California, gave me a coffee mug, and it says, there are three types of people: those who make things happen, those who watch things happen, and those who wonder what happened. and it's these simple, little affirmations or truths, but they just make so much sense. And that's why I'm glad that we're here today. And just to give you guys a quick background of myself, I'm OTB. I'm in America's hometown over here in Plymouth, so just over the bridge. And I have been originally from the South Shore, but have been fortunate enough to live in some great places as part of a couple corporate companies, Southern California, San Francisco, Philadelphia, Scottsdale, Phoenix. And I was a former turnaround specialist for a $400 million advertising publishing company. And we had over 50 markets in the country. And my job was to go into the underperforming markets. Pretty much the publisher or sales manager had already been terminated. The sales had tanked. The team within those markets, they lost belief in themselves, lost belief in their product and their market. And they were just all in really tough shape. And some of the things I'm going to be sharing with you today, I've been implementing since 1990. And within 24 months of taking over those markets, we posted triple-digit sales gains. The magazines became #1 in their markets, respectively. We could have had 1, 2, or 3 different competitors in those markets. And the salespeople were awarded Sales Teams of the Year out of 50 markets. And again, I was very blessed to have great people around me. So again, a good topic about making sure we hire the right people the first time, which is important. And I'm a big believer in assessment testing. I've been using an assessment called DISC since 1993, 94, and I find them to be invaluable. But the other thing was these people really loved what they were doing. Matter of fact, we used to be called the poster children of our company because people would see us and they wouldn't even have to, at a trade show, they wouldn't even have to ask who we worked for. They knew we worked for the apartment guy. I mean, it was crazy. We called it the Has Pizzazz. It was Has Publishing. So we called ourselves the Has Pizzazz. So today, what I'm going to be talking about is the success triangle, and which is what Sandler calls this program. Reason I came on board with Greg 3 years ago was because we're very similar in our training philosophies, our coaching philosophies, and our business philosophies. I always called it the three-legged stool because stool doesn't stand on 2 legs; it stands on 3, and that's what we're going to be talking about as we go through today's program. And again, any questions, feel free to just chime right in. And then after today's program, if you'd like to have a quick 15-minute phone call with me to talk about other things that we do, I'll be more than happy to do that with you as well. So let me jump over here to the infamous screen share. All right, so this is what we call the success triangle. It's really not that complicated. As I always say, life's not complicated. We just make it complicated. And so the success triangle really, again, talks about attitude, behavior, and then the techniques. Techniques could be sales driven. They could be about new service initiatives, could be about new prospecting or outreaching programs. Lori, for you, it could be new ways to connect with nonprofit companies, whatever it might be. But in your career and your personal life, you reach success as a result of these 3 interrelated factors. And again, Sandler calls it, we call it the BAT, B-A-T. What is your batting average? And so if you see at the very top, we've got obviously attitude. And I'm a firm believer. I wrote a book back a few years ago called The Celebration of Life. A Story of Hope, a Miracle, and the Power of Attitude, which is about overcoming adversity through illness. I contracted a rare autoimmune disease called scleroderma that almost killed me back in 2000. Still have it, still deal with it. But attitude, I tell you, you can't manufacture attitude. It's got to be there. You know, you can't give a person a book on attitude and all of a sudden their attitude changes. I mean, it's about our upbringing, our personal experiences, and just our own stick-to-itiveness. You know, as I tell people, you're going to get knocked down. You got two choices. You either get back up or you don't. And we know many people who get back up. We also know people who don't. And again, that's their choice. So the attitude really trickles down to influence your commitment to your behavior, and then also your commitment and willingness to use whatever strategies, policies, implementations that your company may have. And so it's that triangle. And if you have two of them and not one, it's not going to work. And so when you're hiring people or you're working with other people, these are the things that we really want to look for. Again, when it comes to behavior and technique, they're bound together because you need to have a plan, which is again what part of behavior is. We'll talk about that, to be able to execute your company's strategies, your goals, you're making sure you're adhering to your budgets, whatever it might be. For Kathy, it's making sure you got the right crew out at the right site and making sure that everybody there knows what to do. When I speak around the country, I do get some boos when I talk about Bill Belichick. Love him or hate him, the guy knows what the hell he's talking about. Just do your job. Don't worry about the guy next to you. Don't worry about the other person next to you. If everybody just does their job, it's amazing what companies can do. But that's not always the case, as we know. And so then we get over to really making sure that this is all a synergy. And, this applies to, new prospecting approaches. You can have the best prospecting approach, but unless you have an implementing your behavior and your conviction, which is your attitude, it's not going to work. And that's really what we're going to be, really kind of focusing on here as we go through today's program. So any questions? Does this make sense, the triangle?
Perfect sense.
Yeah. And this is something that when I interview people, I have, I do have my little notes. I don't have this specific thing, but I talk to them about attitude and behavior and having them explain to me how they've implemented, a couple techniques. One thing, Kathy, that I learned a long time ago from buddies of mine who were carpenters is you measure twice and you cut once.
Cut once. That's right.
And that's also goes with business. I mean, you've got to, look at your strategies, think about your strategies, the pros and cons of a strategy. And then once you've committed to it, then you make it happen. So the other part of our attitude triangle is the U triangle, which is the top part. Again, when we look at an attitude triangle, it's your attitude about yourself. If you drop down to the bottom left-hand side of the triangle, it's about attitude about your company. And then also your attitude to the bottom right about your market. And I have had some of the best sales gains with my sales teams in depressed markets. Why? Because we didn't buy the hype that nobody wasn't going to buy. We didn't believe that, as our competitors did, who, didn't think that people were going to, use their product or services. We knew we had the best product and service. Therefore, our team had a great attitude. So nothing stopped them. And again, it's amazing that difference of having that attitude. And, attitude is really a belief in yourself a love of life, and a belief in a higher power, in my opinion. That's where your attitude comes from. And so when we look at the you, and that's what I want to focus on right now for a minute or two, is the mind, the body, and the spirit. And especially in 2020, how these were all tested with COVID. I had so many people that just had given up. They were afraid to walk out their door, even to go to the mailbox, because they thought for some reason COVID was going to jump out from behind a bush and attack them. And so I think it decrepit a lot of people. And again, I'm not, it's again how we process things. And so the spirit, I think, is the most important part of our attitude. This is what gets you up in the morning. This is what, again, puts that pep in your step, if you will, in the morning. And so when we talk about spirit, and again, if you'd like to share, what's one of the things that you do in the mornings or throughout the day to reinforce your spirit? Anybody?
I think for myself, I check in with a lot of my friends. We all there's a bunch of us in a similar circle that we work together on different events and things like that. But we all try and post something motivational every morning, something to uplift other people. When I see a phrase or a picture or something that really speaks to me, I try and share it with people. And it's amazing to me how there's always someone that will come back and say, oh my God, I needed that this morning.
Yeah.
Or thank you you just made my day. I've been in a funk or something. So sometimes the smallest of things can make somebody else's day a little brighter. And I'm always saying, keep your sparkle on and make somebody smile.
Love that. Love
Yeah,
that.
that's really good.
Great.
Dale or Kathy?
I have something, but I'll defer to Kathy first.
No, I think just having a positive, outlook on every day, trying to make the most of it. I mean, especially during COVID, it was really difficult. Luckily, I love what I do. So coming to work for me, being able to come to work every day was fantastic. And just trying to, lift some other people that really were not in the same frame of mind. I get a lot out of that. I'm always trying to help somebody. Sometimes it's not a good thing, but it's just who I am. So that helps me every day.
Great. Dale?
Agree. I find myself in similar situations. So I have a vision board it's 3 pieces of paper. It reminds me of why I work. And they range from getting my work done early in the morning in case my kids need me for something throughout the day, being available, right? So getting my work done to be available. I have logos of companies that have really had great success with us, and that makes me feel good. Like it motivates me that the outcome of the work we're doing. And I'm a Gen Xer, so we have a fear of failing. I also have logos or projects that we maybe made a mistake on, and it reminds me that I need to pay attention and focus. And that's not a negative thing. That's I like to be aware of what kind of results you're going to get if I don't start my day the right way. So for me, it's not negative, it's actually positive.
Well, that's great. And Dale, to piggyback on that, I've always said you should, focus more on your failures than you do on your successes. Because your failures, you can turn into success, but you can also turn that failure into a learning experience.
Right.
You know, you've heard the expression where, you know, if you keep doing the same thing, was an Einstein that said you keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. It's a definition of insanity.
Right.
And it is so true. I'm a very spiritual person. So, you know, when I get up in the morning and I make my cappuccino and whether the weather's warm enough to sit out on my deck overlooking my pond, sit here for the first 5 minutes. I'm very grateful for what I have. I've worked very hard for it. I almost lost my life. So that is also something that I reflect and appreciate on. But I've had a very simple saying that I've used. Matter of fact, I still have the business card. When I sold radio advertising in Phoenix in 1987, I still have the business card. And on the back of it, I wrote, "If it's to be, it's up to me." And that's it. I mean, so, you know, when I hit a roadblock, I think about that. And so just these things that we look at. And again, when we talk about mind, you know, we talked a little bit about when you're green, you grow, and when you're ripe, you're rotten. You know, you've always got to be stimulating your mind, whether, you know, Lori, it's with you and your group that you get together and you chat about things. You get that synergy going. I've got a couple workshops that I do on called call reluctance, you know, salespeople that are reluctant to pick up the phone and make prospecting calls. And so what I do with them is prior to making those, and we don't call them cold calls, we call them new calls. Again, all a frame of mind. You say a cold call, they go, "Oh my God." And versus a new call, you know, we're supposed to create demand when we make prospecting calls. And so one of the things that I have them do is prior to making these tougher calls, call an existing client, somebody who loves you. And so you call them, you get your synergy, you get your attitude, you get your confidence up, and then you make the tough call. And you make a bunch of those tough calls. Then if you feel like you're getting beat up, then you go back and you call another client that loves you. And so this is the way that can help you, you know, through that process. Because, you know, we deal with individual salespeople, companies that we do sales training for. And, you know, there's a different group within everybody about how they go after things. So, you know, the mind is all about, again, just refreshing ourselves. You know, Dale's magazine that they send out, great magazine, lots of great articles in there. And so again, it's keeping that mind going. Again, when you're green, you grow, when you're ripe, you're rotten. And then there comes, you know, our body. And, you know, this isn't to make sure, well, I'm only going to eat 500 calories a day. That would never happen with me. Sorry, it just doesn't work that way. I like my sweets too much. And my girlfriend's always looking at me. I go, "Hey, just a little sweet, that's all." But this is really about, you know, if you don't have a good spirit, you know, your mind is lays at that, you know, you're sort of not motivated, you're giving up or whatever, and you're not taking good care of your body, then there's no you. And the body part is just making sure you're getting enough sleep. You know, making sure that you're doing exercises, and that could just be taking a 15, 20-minute walk every day or every other day. I mean, you know, it's not about getting to the gym and pumping a bunch of iron. You know, I used to when I was younger. It doesn't so much these days. And so we've got to find other ways to, again, make sure that we're taking care of our body. I find for me, my best thing is sleep. If I can get enough sleep, then I'm energized when I get up in the mornings. So again, just making sure that we're keeping in touch with all three of these. Again, it's the three-legged stool, the mind, the body, and the spirit. And the reason I talk a little bit about that is because then we get into the area of what we call the self-fulfilling prophecy. And again, really simple is that if you believe something is true about you, you'll act in ways to make it true. If you think you can't do it, you'll just prove to yourself that you can't do it. And a lot of this goes back to our childhood. I've done a lot of studies about, you know, there's 3 ego states that we all possess. There's the child, there's the critical parent, and then there's the adult. This is transactional analysis, part of something that we do training with over at GNA Training. And, you know, a lot of the roadblocks, I like to call head trash. We all have head trash. And a lot of that head trash we got in our adolescence from our parents, grandparents, and aunts and uncles, and those around us. You can't do this. Well, why can't I do it? Because you just can't. You know, there was no reason why, but a lot of this stuff, and I'm a baby boomer, you know, I'm 62 years old. So, you know, I grew up in a time where, you know, there was a lot of discipline, but a lot of high expectations. I was the 3rd of 4 kids. I was the first one to graduate from college. And so it's, you know, there were a lot of high expectations, but again, having that self-fulfilling prophecy, I always knew I was going to be successful in some shape, manner, or form. I just knew it. I just believed in it. And when we get down to beliefs, and I met him actually when I lived in Phoenix, gentleman by the name of Dr. Hamstetler. And he wrote a book called Self-Talk. And you can find him on YouTube. He's got some good videos on there. But he said that 80%, the average person spends 80% of their time thinking negative thoughts about their abilities and capabilities. And that just blows me away. So if we're able to spend that much time, and again, it could be on our appearance, our competencies, our attitude, our lot in life. You know, are we a victim? You know, I've got people that I know in my circle who always think they're the victim, and I have trouble communicating with them because they're always the victim, and there's no such thing as a victim. That's self-created as a way to, again, have that self-fulfilling prophecy of their life. And so if the average person spends 80% of their time thinking negative thoughts, well, why can't it be 50%? Why can't it be 40% or 30%? We're all going to have negative thoughts about our abilities. We're only human. You know, I mean, that's just the way it is. We all have that little voice in our head that we sometimes want to get out of there because it's driving us crazy sometimes. And so those are just some of the things that that I just wanted to bring to your attention. And in your spare time, maybe today or over the next couple of days, just write down some of the things that you feel might be limiting your success. Identify what those are. And then once you've identified those, how, again, is it a self-fulfilling prophecy? Are these things that you can put maybe some goals together and be able to overcome? And I got a great saying at the very end of this that I think you'll really enjoy. And again, I've had it on no matter where I've lived, on my bathroom mirror since the early 90s. So again, I tend to keep these scraps of paper, and I move them from one mirror to another in all the different states that I've lived in. And so again, just make a note of, what's limiting me from being more successful. And now you've got that piece to be able to work with. All right. Does that make sense?
We sabotage ourselves more than anything else.
No kidding, Lori. And the other thing is, those you work with, even family and friends, you can identify with those people, or you can identify them, whether they're those people who just feel that they're going to be successful no matter what they touch. Yeah, we're all going to have roadblocks. We're all going to get knocked down. Welcome to life. If life was easy, then everybody could do it. And it just isn't. It takes, that initiative. It takes that intestinal fortitude to push through things. Kathy, I'm sure when you first started, that and to where you are today, you probably hit a lot of roadblocks. You probably hit a lot of challenges. And you know what? You just plow right through them. I mean, that's what you do.
Yeah,
And-
that is what you do. I mean, yes, I've hit a lot of roadblocks, being in a male dominated industry.
Yeah.
Always, when I would meet with building inspectors, I was the secretary.
Yeah.
And, then they find out you have your building license and, they treat you totally differently.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's interesting.
Well, funny you mentioned that, Kathy. When I lived in San Francisco, we had and this was during the whole .com era back, 98, 99, 2000. And there were a lot of CEOs of these startup companies who were worth tens of millions of dollars. And they would walk into so I knew one of them, actually was one of our venture capitalists. And he always wore like shorts, a t-shirt, and flip-flops. And he went in to buy a new car, a Jaguar. And the sales guy came over to him and just said, "Sir, are you wasting your time being here?" Just because of the way he looked.
Uh-huh.
And he said to the guy, Mike Mueller is his name. He was my founder of the company that I helped take public. And he looked at the guy and he goes, "Well, son, you just lost out on a sale." Because right across the street or down the street a little way was another Jaguar dealer. And he said, "Just because of the way I look, you decided that I couldn't afford a car." He said, "I could buy 10 of these." He walked out the door, went down the street, bought the Jaguar, came back to that dealership, got out of the car and called the sales guy over and said, "See what you missed out on?" I love that story.
Oh, yeah.
And how many other times does that happen? So, yeah, just again, people have these assumptions of what we are. So the next thing I wanted to go ahead, Dale.
I have a question. If it's not appropriate right now, or at the end, we can address it later, but what about people who on our team that have some of these things? Like I've almost a full sheet of notes already, things I'm going to reflect on. Will you, or how can you address someone who isn't positive or isn't starting their day correctly without being like a know-it-all? You know what I mean? Someone on your team, you're noticing these characteristics of these traits. Will you talk about that today? And if not, at the end, could you give us some advice in that area?
Yeah, why don't we wait more towards the end? Because I think I got an idea where you're going with that. And I just had a slide here and I lost it. So let me try to,
Okay.
if I can find it again. Hang on a second. But yeah, the thing with, that's why I always say the hiring process is so important. And if we're not hiring, I always say you hire for attitude and you can teach the product or service later. And to me, I'm such a big believer, in that. And some people just have, which is unfortunate, they just have a bad attitude. And the question is why? And so, when I hire people, everybody has an aura around them. You can feel that energy. You can feel that light, that spirit. And, I've had people that have walked into an interview with me over the years. They look great on a piece of paper, but they didn't present themselves well enough. And I didn't hire them because I knew that there was just something about that individual that just wasn't going to fit with my team. And believe me, my team, and again, it all goes back to the hiring. Everything that we do, the success of our organization all falls back to the hiring and the training and the, people say to me, oh, you're a motivational speaker. No, I mean, I can't motivate you to do squat. I can inspire you, but you have to motivate yourself. And again, that's that internal thing, Dale. And so that's why I always ask people about some of the challenges that they might have had at a typical job. Can you tell me what happened with this or with that? And, how do you deal with customers? And give me some examples of a positive customer service experience. Again, customer service, you can't teach that in a book. It's being conscientious in your own right. That's part of that customer service. So maybe I'll be able to get a little bit more to that, but I wanted to cover, this is really the crux of our talk today. It's really about behavior. And again, behavior is the actions or reactions of someone under specific circumstances. And again, commitment is the connection between attitude as well as the technique. And again, it's not how you feel that determines how you act. It's how you act that determines how you feel. And one of the things when we talk about goal setting, and let's see here, where are we? Yeah. For some reason, I lost another slide. Let me see if I can find that here. Bear with me for a quick second. Nope. The wonders of technology. When we talk about behavior, it's really about, and I'm just trying to buy some time here so I can find the slide. All of a sudden, like two of them just disappeared off my screen. So just please hang with me for a quick second. There we go. All right. So to me, the most important part of when we run a business or work with people is the behavior and how it relates to our goals. And I am a firm believer that, and matter of fact, John Hanna, who used to be a offensive lineman for the Patriots, once said, without a goal, you have nothing in life to strive for. And it is so, so important. And really just quickly, I know we're limited in our time, but as you see behavior, we have goals on the top, long-term, short-term, and daily goals. And then on our bottom left-hand corner, we've got our plan. We need to build our plan. We need to track it. And then we also need to fine-tune it. That's why I've always told people, when you set goals, put them in pencil, because you're going to have to move them and adjust them. Why? Because life happens. And then to the right of that is our action. The best laid plans of mice and men, John Steinbeck. And what that really talks about is that you can have the best set of goals, nice written on a piece of paper. You can build your plan, but if you don't do anything with it, what good is it? I'm a firm believer that our success is directly related to our goals and our goal setting. All your goals should be written down. The most powerful tool that we all have that we don't use is our subconscious mind. And if we are to use our subconscious mind, we can train our subconscious mind. How many of you remember your parents saying to you, if you wanted something, I don't know, let me sleep on it? There was a lot of truth behind that, because when you're conscious, your subconscious mind and your conscious mind work together. But when you're in your conscious mind, you don't really think about your goals. Why? Because you're so busy running your business. Therefore, and I've done a lot of study. I do a couple seminars on goal setting, but if you write them down and you read them out loud in the morning when you wake up, and then right before you go to bed, for the first 45 days, you're gonna train your subconscious mind so that when you're sleeping, your subconscious mind puts into action those triggers that I call. So when you are awake, without you even knowing it, your subconscious mind is working and directing you to achieve those goals. And I don't have any children, but if I did, I do this with my nieces and nephews, and they're now all in their late 20s, 30s, and 40s, all very successful, because early on in their lives, I worked with them on goal setting. You've got to have your people set goals too. And so, they got to build that plan. And the other important part of that is that we just, we have personal goals and we have professional goals. And we've got to make sure that when we're goal setting that we do both of those, because if one doesn't, you can be successful in life, but only if your business goals and your professional goals or your personal goals are in sync with each other. They have to be. If you're unhappy in your personal life, that carries over into your business and vice versa. If you're not happy in business, it affects your family life and your personal life. So it's really, it's about getting that balance. And as I always like to say, a goal is a dream with a deadline in writing. And I wrote a book, I read a book back when I was in early 90s. It was called The Magic of Believing. And the author was Claude Bristol. And it was written, I think, 1937, 1940 something. And the language was of that era. You might know the rewrite of the book called The Secret, which was a movie, which was a book, and it made it more into our language, if you will. But I read that book and it basically talked about visualization. Dale, you've got a vision chart. Visualization is one of the most powerful things that we can do for our business and also our personal life as well. But it all goes back to making sure that we discipline our subconscious mind to take over these goals. And believe me, if you do this, when I first did this in the early 90s, my career and my personal life went off on a trajectory so fast and so high that I almost had to put a seatbelt on to keep from falling off. I mean, I was just blown away. And because of that, I've had a very successful life. I continue to have a very successful life. And I'm actually, at the age of 62, I'm going to retire at the end of this year. I'm going to still work with clients and do some coaching here and there. But it's been a marathon. And I think it's time to, I'll probably maybe work part-time, but because I don't think I can ever fully retire. I drive myself crazy and all those people around me. But it's because of the goal setting that opens up so many possibilities and opportunities for everybody. And one of the things that I talk to people about when they're talking about goal setting is really about their daily goals. And one of the things that, and maybe this might help you, I call it time blocking. I don't know if you've ever heard of the term time blocking or not. So this is what I do every day of my work week, and sometimes on my weekends. I time block everything that I need to do that day. Why? Because if I don't write it down, it doesn't exist. And I think as the older we get, it's we can forget a little bit more here and there. So I have to write everything down. The other thing that I write in my breaks. I write in my lunch so that I can make sure that I take a quick, even if it's a 10-minute break. I just have to revive myself, get my spirit back into sync. But everything I do, I time block out. If you have anyone in your groups that are having trouble with their time management, work with them on time blocking. It's again, it's an incredibly powerful tool. And again, my calls, my workshops, my meetings, everything is time blocked. Okay. And I just want to leave, I know that we're right at the 9:45, but this is, I mentioned another saying that I've had over the years, and here it is. You can no longer sit back and dream. The moment has come to paint on a broader canvas and create something permanent and worthwhile. Don't wait for fortune to smile upon you. You owe it to yourself to find a new purpose and forget about limitations and restrictions, for the only ones that exist are of your own making. And this is on my bathroom mirror. It's been on my bathroom mirror since 1990 in 15 different places that I've lived over the years. And so when I get up in the morning and I throw some cold water on my face and brush my teeth, this is the last thing I look at before I get my day started. If anyone would like a copy of that, you've got my my email address, which is just Andrew Botieri at gnatraining.com. I'll be more than happy to share this with you. But so that's it. I know it was a quick program today. What I just covered with you is actually probably about a 3-hour program. But we know your time's important, so we just wanted to at least give you a little bit of a flavor there. So I just want to quickly again thank you guys. Lori, any takeaways from today?
One of the things that I've been working on myself is that time blocking,
Yeah.
because I find that if I don't write it in my book, which is right here next to my right hand and my pencil, of which I'm writing in my book in pencil, I forget things. And then at the end of the day, the light bulb goes on and then I'm in panic mode.
Yeah.
At 8 or 9 o'clock trying to do something that I should have done in the morning. So especially with the social media
Yeah.
portion, I use a paid service that I've had for several years now, and I schedule all that, but it's remembering to go and do that and then do the oddball other things that need to get done. So I'm really working on the time management.
Yeah, and that's something that we'll always have to deal with. Just think about this. We spend more time, energy, and money worrying about how we're going to spend our money, which is replaceable. And we spend less time and energy worrying about our time and how we're going to spend our time, which is irreplaceable.
Right.
Kathy.
Oh, definitely time management. There's no getting around that. I'm a very schedule oriented person. You know, I'm also the main caregiver for my 94-year-old father that lives with me.
Oh,
So, you know, time management is everything. And sometimes, you know, I just don't take enough time for myself. And, you know, I belong to the yacht club, and I really wanted to learn how to play mahjong. And one woman says to me, I said, I just don't have time. And they said, you own your own company, put it on your calendar.
yeah.
So I did.
So true.
It was the best thing I ever did.
When I was, Kathy, funny you mentioned that. When I was, I've got a couple of different time management programs that I do. And in researching it, I found out that the average person, because I always say that thing, I don't have any time. The average person spends 13.4 years just watching television.
Oh.
Think about that.
Yeah.
What could you do with an extra 13 years added on to your life if you didn't watch television? You know?
How true. Wow.
Yeah. And, you know,
Mind blowing.
and I like to watch documentaries. I like to learn or a nice thriller movie or something like that. Gets the blood flowing.
Mm-hmm.
But we've always got to be learning. Again, mind, body, spirit when it comes to the you part of your triangle. Dale, any takeaways?
Yeah, definitely. So I am a time management, I don't want to say junkie, but it's bad. Like, I think I need to back off a little bit. I have a treadmill desk I learn, work, and walk, and eat and drink at the same time. Like I can't squeeze more time. I heard a quote recently that wealthier, successful people have learned that money is not an obstacle to success. Time is. So I have spent a lot of time on that, but I think I can do a little bit better. I actually cut out TV on weekdays completely.
Wow.
I have different ways that I relax. And on the weekends, when I'm doing yard work, I listen to marketing podcasts and things. So like even mowing the lawn, you know, so I found that to be very beneficial. My big takeaway is actually making a list of what's limiting my success. And I don't want to say that I'm not successful, because I'm in a good place. I put in 10 hard years and I'm at a place where I've eased off a little bit. But I think it's important. It's all, you know, I'm probably between green and ripe right now. That's my takeaway. I need to take a step more towards green and then say, what have I done that has made me a little bit, you know, coming off of 10 years, I need a little bit of a break, but I think it's time for me to like step on that gas a little bit more. And that's my takeaway today. Not to say that I'm not doing a lot. I'm just thinking, you know, introspectively.
Well, and it comes down to that, you know, we've got to pivot and we've got to reinvent ourselves sometimes. And not that we have to revamp ourselves and completely, but sometimes we just got to, you know, look at the highway we're on, obviously stay within those guardrails, but you know, what else could we be adding to or taking away? I actually lived for 4 years without a television. And let me tell you, I was so incredibly productive. I'm a musician, so obviously I spent a lot of time, you know, writing music and playing. And I used to do a little circuit here in Plymouth. Actually used to play at the Plymouth Yacht Club, as a matter of fact, Kathy. And so to me, you know, you've got to have those other outlets that are creative. You know, sitting here during the day working, I actually have classical music playing in the background. Love classical music, and it's been proven that it increases your creativity. They've even shown that with pregnant women who listen to classical music versus not listening to classical music, and the development of their children in the womb. So again, just incredible stuff about how powerful some of these things can be. So again, I want to thank both of you. Again, Dale, thank you very much. You know, Kathy and Lori, I'm just going to shoot you guys a quick email with my contact information. Like I said, I do time management programs, if that might be of interest to you and your groups. So, but in the meantime, hey, have a great Tuesday. And as I always like to say, make it a great day on purpose.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Andrew.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everybody.
so
Take
much.
care.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.